Lexi Howard,
Hi.
how you doing?
So, overall, I guess I've liked this season of Euphoria. But the season finale itself was unfulfilling for me because there's just too many loose threads and it feels like it was all cut short. Of course, this is a season finale, not a series finale, so not every plotline is going to be wrapped in a perfect bow. But typically, what I want from a finale is resolve most threads, tease new ones, and acknowledge those left unresolved. That way, you are both satisfied while eagerly anticipating the new season. A new season which could take 2 years, by the way. The unsatisfactory nature of Laurie's plotline, for example, has me feeling frustrated. They don't want to fully resolve it because they want to leave the door open for the storyline next season, but they also don't want to properly tease it because they aren't sure if they really want to go the trafficking route. At least that's what I think is happening. So instead, we're left in this middle ground where no one knows what is really going on. And the audience are just pulling up theories out of thin air, like Rue was in the apartment for weeks and paid off her debt. I can promise you that Sam Levinson hasn't planned and thought about it as hard as some of you have. With that being said, there's another unresolved plotline that I'm not so angry about, because it works for me as a teaser for the next season, if they go where I think they're going. Also, it could easily make this 2-year buffer zone more bearable, and this plotline is that of Lexi and Fez. Lexi and Fez have been my favorite couple in quotes because it's unofficial, of the entire show probably. They both fit a particular archetype while also subverting it in their own way, so let's get into it. In the first season, Lexi is pretty much a background character. We get told that she was once a close friend to Rue who has been thrown to the side, but we don't get many opportunities to actually see that friendship for ourselves or how being disregarded in favor of Jules has affected her. The carnival episode, for example, would have been a perfect opportunity to explore this, as Rue runs off with Jules the second she sees her and Gia disappears with her friends. Seeing Lexi wander around that hectic carnival atmosphere on her own would have been a great moment of insight into how she's feeling. In a show where many complain that Euphoria isn't representative of what their teenage life was like, Lexi is supposed to serve as a grounded character that these people could relate to. But instead, the show quickly forgets about her just as easily as Rue does. We get one shot of her face as Gia tells her Rue is in love with Jules. We aren't really sure what to make of her expression, then she's gone. She's just hovering in the background for most of the season, largely overshadowed by everyone else, including her sister Cassie. That changed this season. Lexi was given the spotlight, and not by making her have an extreme storyline like the other characters, but by staying true to who she was, a grounded, relatively normal high schooler who is putting on a play. Now, if you heard that a main plot point this season would be Lexi writing and directing a play, it sounds boring as hell. But in the show, it's so satisfying to see her character blossom like this. And yes, you can get into the ethics of the play, of how Lexi is airing everyone's dirty laundry, which I agree is debatable, but for me, there's no denying that pulling her character out from the background is a good thing. And by the end, it resolves what was poorly handled last season, her friendship with Rue. We're not just told they're friends anymore, we're shown it. It finally feels genuine and is one of the best moments of the season for me. And her play isn't the only plotline Lexi gets given this season. There's another that has even bigger ramifications for her character's prominence moving forward, and that's her budding relationship with Fez. In the first season, Fez wasn't as thrown to the background as Lexi, but he is there just to serve a purpose for the other characters. First as Rue's dealer, then he serves as the change that gets Rue to seek help from Ali, because Fez won't deal her anymore. Then when that's resolved, he's there to intimidate Nate because Rue asked him to. It's not really about him, who he is, and what he wants. And in fact, he was supposed to be written off by the end of the first season, because he had served his purpose. Thank God that didn't happen, because this season we get so much more of him. The second season opens with his own dedicated episode. We learn of his backstory, which is a surefire way to get the audience more attached to a character. And then cutting to the present day, at a New Year's Eve party, he finds himself sitting next to a girl called Lexi, and their chemistry is immediate. She's shy at first, but as he keeps asking questions and paying attention to her that no other character or the show itself had paid to Lexi up until this point, she begins to open up. And the second Lexi meets someone who cares about what she has to say, she finds her voice, which subsequently leads to her making the entire school also care about what she has to say and how she views things. We all know that wholesomeness on Euphoria is not in abundance, so this is such a perfect storyline to give us that. But the enrichment to Lexi's character isn't the only only interesting thing this dynamic presents. Let's look at this couple on paper. On paper, we have a dealer with a tough exterior and a girl who has by far the least wild or exciting life of any character on the show. On paper, it looks like a typical good girl, bad boy trope of opposites attract, but I think this archetype is both deconstructed on Euphoria, while also being relevant into how their storylines will progress moving forward. The 1985 movie The Breakfast Club is a classic example of this trope with very minimal deconstruction. John Bender is a rude, rebellious teen. Claire is a good girl in the pristine, sophisticated princess kind of way. These two are constantly butting heads throughout the movie. John makes her cry on numerous occasions. He abuses her, he harasses her, yet she kisses him twice by the end of detention. I love The Breakfast Club, and I know that the point of it is that this group of teens learn to see each other through their preconceived notions. And yes, I know that as the movie progresses, we learn more about Bender's home situation and see some hints of vulnerability. But still, there's a reason why this archetype is almost no longer presented to this extreme and in this way anymore. And if it is done, it's not done in a positive light, where that amount of ridicule and abuse can lead to him being rewarded with a kiss, and it being delivered as part of the wholesome ending. Molly Ringwald herself has talked about this. We also get no explanation of why she did it. Even when he asks her why she kissed him, she responds with, "Because I knew you wouldn't." An iconic line, by the way, but if we were to say that the reason she did is because she saw the vulnerable side to him, I think that is a pretty generous take that the writing itself doesn't actually give enough to warrant, because it could just as easily be that she was attracted to him the whole time, even before those tiny hints were shown, which is why she periodically defends him through the movie despite how awful he is to her. In the 1999 movie 10 Things I Hate About You, Kat isn't a good girl per se, but she is antisocial, keeps to herself, not interested in dating and more interested in her academics. Patrick is a quintessential bad boy who accepts money in order to fake date Kat. Kat falls for him, and even after she finds out that he did it all for pay, she confesses her love to him soon after. But there's actually a difference here. Unlike The Breakfast Club, this movie makes it clear that the Patrick she fell for isn't the bad boy exterior. She didn't fall for him because he was the mean guy that paid attention to her. The movie makes it clear that while everyone in school thinks this is the academic girl latching onto the bad boy, she was actually turned off by that, and she only fell for him when he showed her genuine emotion, when he showed her that the bad boy stereotype is not who he is. So how does any of this relate to Lexi and Fez? Well, the reason Fez is so interesting, even in the first season, is that despite his occupation, despite how violent he can be at times, the second this guy opens his mouth, it is clear he's a teddy bear.
That's what I call a quandary.
What's the answer?
Wait, what was the question again?
He's so relaxed and soft-spoken, he cries watching movies. That's who Lexi was drawn to, not the dealer. So yes, on paper this is the opposites attract scenario, the good girl bad boy trope, but in reality what makes their chemistry so strong is that they are kind of the same.
We don't really have nothing in common.
That's not true. We both have the same sense of humor and are empathic and curious and want to have like kids.
The season opens by showing us that Fez didn't seek out this life. This life came to him, and he had little choice in the matter. He had to support his grandmother and little brother, and this is the only way he knew how. Aside from this, and aside from the occasional violent outburst, he's easily one of the most grounded characters on the show. And he also has standards, something other characters seem to struggle with. Like the line he drew with Rue both last season and this season. It's a deconstruction. However, with that being said, after what happened in the season finale, this is where I believe the dynamic between the two will evolve next season. You see, I'm not only bringing up this couple archetype just to say, oh, it's deconstructed like in 10 Things I Hate About You. I'm bringing it up to say that moving forward, it might evolve into the more recognizable trope where these two do genuinely become opposites, at least for a moment, and to say that that is not necessarily a bad thing. Hear me out. This is my ideal scenario of what lies in store next season. I don't want to see Fez in prison for the entire season, there's little you can do with that. So I hope in some way he's freed, which I think is a genuine possibility. First, I think they will find out that the stabbing was done by Ashtray, regardless of whether Fez still wants to take the blame. And secondly, if the cops had enough on Fez to convict, they wouldn't need a witness in a wire, which means that they needed more evidence. When Rue went to him during her withdrawal, he mentioned he didn't keep any in the house after the first raid. That could be a hint into how he gets out. If the cops don't don't have enough to pin him down. Alternatively, Fez could also offer help in getting Lori in exchange for immunity, which would be interesting if Rue finds herself in trouble next season. He could be the one to save her. Regardless of what reasoning the show gives for him walking free, I want him free, because from there we can take him on a much bigger character arc. As much as I love him from a storytelling perspective, I don't want to see him come out and just be fine, carrying on as normal. I want to see the effect losing Ash has on him. It of course has to affect him deeply, otherwise it's a meaningless plot point and it cheapens their bond. And from there, maybe Fez brings out the darker side to him we only got glimpses of, and this darker side becomes his new personality. I know some people would hate to see this happen to him, and yes, while it will be painful to watch this lovable dealer turn a little dark, it won't be the end of the world. He won't be a lost cause, because now there's Lexi. In this season, Fez was the push Lexi needed to put herself in the spotlight. She's shining, of course because of her talent, but also with the help of Fez, which is why she dedicated the play to him. And I think it would be a beautiful thing if in the next season, she returns the favor. She can be the one to pull him out from the rubble after he's lost Ashtray, and give him the life he deserves, the life he dreams about.
On a farm, you know?
I don't really see you as a farmer.
Get some horses, cows, pigs, chickens, goats. Have a little family.
But before he reaches that point, he's going to have to really struggle, because that's what character development is. If I were to summarize my channel in one sentence, it would be to say that just because something is a trope does not automatically make it bad. It's about how it is used. So season 3 walking back on this deconstruction and making Lexi and Fez be the more good girl bad boy dynamic that exists on paper, I think could make for a great season, so long as it follows this arc and serves the right purpose. It would be so much more interesting to me than seeing them just hang out for another season. I loved seeing that in season 2, but it's time to push this storyline further, develop them further, give them more. And when I mentioned at the start of the video that these two could be the perfect buffer between now and season 3 to make the wait more bearable, I'm talking about the specials. Zendaya is booked and busy, and even if she was available for a special, Rue's storyline is actually one of the few that ended with some semblance of closure. Jules is for sure not getting one, so give them to Lexi and Fez and it would be the perfect teaser. Lexi can find out what happened, find the note, and be determined to help him. And on the opposite end, we get teased with how the loss of Ash causes a deep change in Fez's personality, one that he needs to be saved from. The end of the show has to be about who will overcome and survive their issues and who will succumb to them. And I strongly believe Fez will overcome this. And as tragic as the loss of Ashtray is, it will be looked back on as the event that pushed him out of that life. And Lexi will be the one to help him with that. But again, first he is going to have to really struggle. These are just my thoughts on Lexi and Fez and what I want to see from them moving forward. Let me know yours in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. Bye.
Like a Stand By Me vibe.
Yes, exactly. I love that movie. That's
Hell
exactly
yeah.
it.
Come on, now I've watched that film like 50 times.
How really?
That's my shit. Come on.